We're fortunate in having the signature of one of the architects right here in the parapet of the tower. This is W.G. Storm's signature, finished off with a little pair of eyeglasses, another little bit of his whimsy. The story of University College and this wonderful building that you see behind here is the hiring of architects. And the architects chosen were Cumberland and Storm. Cumberland was the client person, the large idea person, the person better trained in architecture, and Storm was the detail person, less interested in the overall scheme, more concerned about details, structure, and also the supervision of the building. We don't know for certain, but almost certainly, these column capitals were each designed by Storm. So in these capitals, you see Storm at his whimsical best. You can see it very nicely in the capital just here to the side of me, where you have 4 schoolgirls whose hair is braided into pigtails, but the pigtails are each tied together so none of them can move away from the other. There's a little bit of humor in many of these details, including this one. So Storm was the person who gave life and character to the building. Now, Storm had come to Canada from England. His father was a mason and a contractor. He didn't have any social advantages, but Cumberland clearly recognized his ability and his skill at drawing and detailing. And so in 1852, Cumberland and Storm formed a partnership that was responsible for some of the truly great buildings in the city of Toronto, the ones that Toronto thinks of as characteristically the spirit of Toronto. For example, Osgoode Hall, St. James Cathedral on King Street, the building that Ryerson has preserved the facade of, which was once upon a time the normal school training for teachers, St. James the Less on Parliament Street. These are buildings that give character even today to the city of Toronto, and even more so in the 1850s when Cumberland and Storm were at their height. Fred Cumberland came to Canada in 1847 and began an architectural career that lasted really only for about 10 years. He became a partner. He invited into partnership William George Storm, his partner from 1852 onwards. So he had only been here for a very few years when he began to make a major name for himself. One of the reasons for his instant success was that 2 of his sisters were married to rideouts. Rideouts had for years been a part of the social elite in Toronto. In fact, in Upper Canada as a whole, part of what had been known 20 years earlier as the family compact, and they were a crucial element in that family compact that seemed to control all of the social and cultural activities of the city. So through his 2 sisters' marriages, he had access to the upper level of society. And so he acquired these wonderful commissions to do major projects within the first 6 or 8 years of his time here in Toronto. He carried those projects out and then abandoned architecture, never to return to it. So Cumberland and Storm were retained by the university to create a new building for University College that would be separate from the small bit of the structure for King's College that had been begun in Queen's Park. But he and Cumberland disagreed on what kind of a building this should be. And their disagreements were largely stylistic. Remember, this is the middle of the 19th century. This is the height of an eclectic period in architecture when it was possible to choose from any number of historic architectural patterns of design. You could do a building that was Greek Revival, you could do a building that was Roman Revival, you could do a building that was Byzantine Revival, you could do a building that was Gothic Revival. You could do almost anything you wanted as long as you did it well. The oddity of University College is that Cumberland, though he chose a style that was essentially Romanesque revival, in fact incorporated elements from a variety of styles of architecture. And part of its attraction, part of its liveliness, part of its picturesqueness is that it isn't simply one style of architecture. It's not simply a Gothic Revival building. It's a Romanesque building with touches of Byzantine, as Langton said in describing the building to someone when he described it as a not altogether unsightly building. They seem to have had a good working relationship during the 10 or so years that they were partners. But at some point Cumberland left, and here is Storm's way of saying, this building is my building.